JLX is my artist signature, but you can call me Jenny Links. And here's a cheesy intro. I've been drawing for a very long time, ever since I was a little girl. And because I've been drawing for so long, I've been reasonably good at it for at least a little bit now. However, I wouldn't say I've developed an art style that I could call my very own. Rather, I've got favorite ways to draw certain features, but I don't have a cohesive style for all of these different little traits that I have acquired. It all changed when, on a whim, I decided to try one of those roll for portrait drawing challenges that I had seen on TikTok. So that's what I did, is I assigned some of my favorite ways to draw certain things, and this is how she came out. I was actually really surprised with how good it is, and not because my failing on my own style, but because I wasn't sure I could get all of these traits that I had, randomized to look good and cohesive together. This is the start of a good thing, and I think I'm gonna keep going with it. So here's the next 3 that I did after that, because I couldn't stop myself. For this first one, I used the same list that I had used for the girlie I didn't record. I was a little intimidated by the horseshoe mustache that I rolled. I mean, it's not bad. I've seen tons of people who look good with a horseshoe mustache. I just, when in doubt, I tend to err on the side of insecure, so I wasn't sure I could make it look good, even though I know I have the skills to actually make it look good. Character design will tell you that you should only give one major feature to a character, something that defines them and sets them apart from background, which is fine if you're doing a full illustration. And I know I tend to do a lot of illustrations, but that's not what this challenge is supposed to do, and it's not part of my goal for doing these exercises. My goal is to make a cohesive art style that I can actually stick to and apply to everything else. So I tried out a lot of different things with this first sketch, and I ultimately decided to do 5 sketches on one paper. The central and focal point of the portrait drawing being a traditional portrait pose with a straight center face, and then do the 3/4 turned both left and right respectively, as well as a looking up and looking down perspective. I know how to do all of these. I've practiced them many a times. For some reason I had gotten in my head that nobody would watch this if I didn't make the challenge more challenging for some reason, but I realized after this sketch that once again defeats the purpose. So I won't be doing this for every portrait drawing from this point on, but it was fun to do once, and maybe if I really like how one comes out, I'll do more. In my little intro, I showed some of my art books that I've collected over the years of some of my favorite artists, including Studio Ghibli, Fullmetal Alchemist, Fire Emblem, the Haikyuu art book. Each one of these art styles is very distinctive from each other, but also instantly recognizable. And that's what an art style is supposed to be, is something that can be recognized. This person, or this artist drew this. And I feel like that's necessary for this YouTube journey that I'm starting. That way, as we all move forward together, it'll be easier to recognize my art from other art YouTubers, and when it does appear somewhere, especially if it's somewhere I don't want it to appear, it's obvious. It's definitely a difficult lesson for young artists to learn that just signing your artwork isn't enough to protect it, and being afraid of commitment is a way to stunt your growth. Being self-taught, all I knew how to do was replicate how others drew, the ones who made these stories, like Fullmetal Alchemist. All I knew is how to copy them and mimic what I saw, instead of create something of my own. And if that art style didn't include certain features, which notoriously a lot of anime and manga didn't, I basically just didn't know how to draw it. Thankfully, anime and manga is far more diverse now, and so you have a lot more options, a lot more room to play. And when you're learning to draw from reference, whatever you're referencing is all you have to work with. But there's a lot of art, how to draw manga books that also had the same issue. I have several of those books, and I flipped through a couple of them at the beginning, but a lot of them didn't include certain features like, wide noses, really bushy eyebrows, mustaches, things like that. You had to basically try and figure it out on your own, or you had to brute force your way through to get those. Which which isn't ideal in any situation, because it always looks like you brute forced it. The other major feature that I rolled for this first sketch was the darkest skin tone that I can manage with my current supplies, and I got pretty dark. What can I say? I managed to find the darkest marker I can. It's common knowledge at this point that a lot of color packs for markers and paints don't include skin tones that are beyond just normal Caucasian. So I'm actually really proud that I managed to accumulate enough supplies that I had this opportunity. Of course, that means I have to get a little creative on how to shade him. It's a common problem among artists when working in the darkest and or lightest tones of anything, because when you're working in the mid-range, you can use your lightest pencil to pull forward the highlights and then use your darkest pencils to push back the shadows. But if you're already working in the darkest value, you have to get a little creative and work some other colors in there to just change the hues in certain areas, so you still get those shadows, but you are also not making just a black void on your paper either. But that's one of my favorite things about drawing in the darkest skin tones, is that you get to use so many colors that you wouldn't think would be able to be balanced in a picture or on someone's skin. But in the end, they all come together cohesively because of the dark value. It's only possible because of the dark value, and that's one of my absolute favorite things about art, is how you can just make what doesn't make sense stunning. I decided to use colored pencils for my secondary medium to help push back those darks and pull forward the lights and play with the values for this portrait. It's not uncommon for artists to use chalk pastels and pastels for subtle shadings and soft shadings. I just don't see it used very often in the anime and manga art style, because typically, because it's animated or intended to be animated someday, it uses cell shading, which can look really nice, and I do like how it looks 95% of the time. But because I'm extra, I like to have the secondary soft shadings that colored pencils and pastels can give you when I do portraits. So it takes a lot longer, which is why it's not usually used in the industry. Anyways, this is how he came out. Like I said, I couldn't stop myself after this because this was actually a lot of fun. I love working with a lot of materials, so it felt really catered to what I like to do. This one was fun because I threw in an extra die, and it was the D100. My thought process for it was, I should roll for the general age range of whoever I'm drawing to. And right off the bat, I almost immediately regretted it because I got 90. So I had to aim to draw somebody in their 90s. I didn't really know how to do that. It's not that I don't draw a wide range of ages, it's that I don't think I've ever gone past maybe 70. I think I get close in this portrait, but I don't think I quite hit 90 successfully, so I'm gonna go ahead and call this one a fail, and I'll still use the D100 occasionally. It's gonna be like the 5 sketches on one page versus just the 1 sketch. I'm just gonna do it occasionally. I really like what I rolled. But the only thing I could really think of to really make this, I guess, a 90-year-old was to make him bald, which is terrible because, not all 90-year-olds are bald, I guess. I don't know, I couldn't think of any other good way to do it. The other big thing that I changed about this drawing was I used only a brush pen to draw the whole thing, whereas I had only drawn with microns for the previous sketch. And I think I like how skin looks with microns, but I like how brush pens draw hair. Even really tight, kinky, horsey, textured hair. I like how brush pens do that better. I don't know, it feels more authentic and like the hair has some actual weight behind it. But then the microns, because they're one thickness wherever you put them, no matter how you hold the pen, you get a really consistent line, which I feel like is good for, representing the edges of skin and, the contours of a face or a body, because your skin's not thicker in some areas and thinner in some areas. It's just in shadow or not. Consistent line weight or thickness helps that continuity. I got a nice medium range young artists think, oh, everybody turns pink when they're blushing, so when coloring cheeks it should be pink, but that's not true among all skin tones, and you can have plenty of color in very strange places. There's also yellow, green, purple, a lot of strange colors that you don't think of when you think of skin off the top of your head, but are all necessary to make skin look like skin on a person. And those are all very apparent the older you get, because, you know, you can't hide your sunspots and whatnot. It just, you know, time and reveals all things, just like it reveals all truths. And it will reveal the truth of your skin. I promise you that someday. I don't know what it is about me, but whenever I draw portraits, I tend to always draw them with either a neutral expression or a smile. I don't like to draw people sad or angry unless that's part of a larger picture, which isn't what these are, so generally most of these people are probably going to have a neutral to smiling expression on their face, and that's how I ended up choosing to add smile lines for my 90-year-old man here. I wasn't super sure what else to add to help sell the illusion that he was in his 90s, and it just, I don't know, I gave him some sunspots and some, you know, freckles and whatnot, and I'm any color or blushing I added to his face, I dragged it down further than I normally would to help, I don't know, sell the illusion that his skin's a little saggier than he would be if he was younger. I don't know. Like I said, I don't consider this one a success. But let's go ahead and try for the last portrait for this video. And you guys, I wish for the first time that I had recorded myself live. I usually don't, because my asthmatic breathing tends to ruin the audio, but when I rolled for this portrait, I made an unholy, kind of cursed laughing sound, because not only did I roll a handlebar mustache, which is like, you know, totally right up my alley, and like, I can handle that, okay? That's not an issue. I've done that before. I can draw a handlebar mustache. What I don't typically draw, though, is a monobrow. And so immediately I knew exactly what I had to do. I had to make his monobrow match his mustache. And I got a little scared as well, considering the fact that I added yet again another roll, but this time for color of hair roughly. I didn't, you know, commit too hard. I just rolled a d6 to roll the main general colors of hair, and I got red! Which means this man is a ginger with a monobrow and a handlebar mustache. I tried really hard to make sure that he was at least, I don't know, dapper to match his handlebar mustache, so I gave him a short pompadour, and I kind of went a little heavy on the eyelashes to make sure he was as, you know, like his glam matched his extra of the mustache, his extraness. But to be honest, he's kind of my favorite of these portraits that I've done so far. Like, this was really fun. This particular portrait was really fun. To say I was giggling the entire time while working on this man is an understatement. And to be perfectly honest, while I was filming, I had the idea of like, oh, I should ask people if they've seen anyone who looks like these people I end up drawing, and put it in the comments. But when I rolled that monobrow mustache combo, I realized if I do that, someone's gonna lie. Please don't lie in the comments. If you've seen someone who looks like, or rather, if you've seen someone that looks like one of the more conventional gentlemen I've drawn in this video so far, then please say that you've seen someone that kind of looks like that. But do not lie and say you've seen a ginger with a monobrow and a handlebar mustache at this. Just don't lie. We all know this man does not exist, although I wish he did. I would be swooning. Ask any artist and they will tell you color theory is, forgive my French. So when it came to making the background color for this man, I chose to keep it yellow and light and bright to counteract the dark skin and the heavy warmth that comes from his hair, because the portrait itself is leaning very warm, and if I add a cool tone to the background, it might offset the entire, I guess, aura, no, the entire feeling that this man gives off. But color theory is never easy, and it's almost never right. No, I don't think anybody has fully mastered color theory. Just people are further along in their mastery than others. And I'm not going to claim to be an expert. I am definitely better in theory than I am in practice when it comes to my color theory. I understand the concepts more than I am currently able to perform. Color theory is a lifelong hobby to try and figure out how to master. It's not going to be overnight. So I highly doubt this will be the last time I complain about color theory. I kind of wish that I was able to make the eyes more exciting, because you can tell a lot about a person, an artist's style, and what other artists have inspired them with how they draw eyes. And I haven't really come up with a good way to make how I draw eyes, I guess, special. I used whiteout for all of my eye shines for these three men, but maybe I'll try something different. Maybe I'll play up with the shapes or something next time around. But if you have any good ideas, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you being here for this strange adventure, and this is gonna be a series. This is gonna be a series on the channel. So welcome to Roll for Portrait JLX edition.